Welcome back to the Reach podcast, episode 2.
It's been a bumpy road to episode 2. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so episode 2 is after the first race of the season, Levy.
We dusted off the old cobwebs and we had a bit of an anticlimax.
Yeah, dusting off cobwebs. TJ, some cobwebs for you?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
When was your last race? World Cup race?
My last World
Wait,
Cup.
oh, we haven't introduced TJ.
That's a good point.
Hi.
So this is TJ Baldwin, Thomas Jackson Baldwin,
The redneck.
Jack.
also known as Speedy Tej.
I think he deserves a little...
Speedy T.
Yeah,
Thanks for that. Thanks for having me.
you're welcome. Great to have you on board.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, where to begin? I was an okay ski racer back in the day. Started a few World Cups. Speed was more my bag.
How many World Cups did you start?
I think 11. Not too
And
many.
in speed.
Yeah, Super G downhill.
So a bit different.
Maybe one
from,
combined.
A bit different from
Yeah.
what we're doing. But
Yeah. There's a lot of carryover, obviously, but the big difference is 1 run versus 2 runs, and how that affects your routine, your daily routine, especially on race days specifically, and the differences in how you mentally prepare yourself. It's quite significantly different actually.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the preparation is for a single run is very similar. So yeah, it was my last World Cup. I think was 2014, Wengen actually. So yeah, it was 10 years. 10 years from World Cup as an athlete to World Cup as a coach. So it was cool. I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good nerves. It was nice to be back at the sharp end, the pointy end of things.
yeah, I think that's... I know for me, that's what I enjoy. Like we talked about in last episode, is competing at the highest level. That's where you want to be, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's the reason, one of the many reasons why I said yes to Jai when he gave me a call and asked me to come and join you boys. I'd worked in the NHS for 3 years, and the NHS is a fantastic institution and I loved it, but I wanted something different and I wanted to be back at the sharp end of things where the people I worked with before, they strive to be the best and provide the best care, but it's very different. You've not got the same intensity, emotions. You don't live together, travel together.
How are you finding that?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, no fallouts yet.
We're
Just yet.
testing him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta go deep into the winter before you get the arguments in.
I'll just say, so TJ has joined us this year. I guess coming in as a physio,
Many roles.
but
Yeah,
we're calling him many roles TJ.
yeah,
So
yeah. We got Speedy Tej, many roles TJ.
So TJ is primarily physio.
Yeah.
That's his specialty. That's what you've learned.
Yeah.
Worked in the NHS. He's also my serviceman for
Yeah.
skis, and all-round legend,
Legend.
taking on a lot of work.
Get it done.
With
Good
the
team, eh?
with the 3 members of staff everyone kind of pitches in to everything really, and so it gives you a very rounded what's the word for it, opinion, and lots of eyes on your skiing and
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
And it is definitely the adaptability we talked about. Everyone has maybe their role, but also has to adapt and put themselves in other roles as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if a job needs doing, you get it done,
Yeah.
whether it's in your comfort zone or not. That's how a team works.
Yeah.
Which
Nice.
is cool.
Okay, so should we go back to the race?
Yeah, let's talk about the race.
So yeah,
How did you find it, Billy? How was your first race of the season? How did it go for you?
I think should we describe it with a few words or feelings pre and post race?
Yeah, let's do that.
So before the race, I would say I was very excited, feeling very confident, and ready to kick the season off. After the race, I felt like a mug and was extremely disappointed. You,
Okay,
Larry?
I will second that with a similar arc to my story. Started off really good lead-in, very confident, happy with my skiing, felt good on the day, and I was really pumped to get things going. And then, afterwards, my peak went to a huge trough, and I got the shock of when you get down, you see your time, and it's just like, oh, it just hits hard,
Yeah.
especially when it's been going really well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slap, isn't it?
Yeah. So no qualification.
Yeah.
Felt like an idiot,
so
angry.
Yeah, so neither of us qualified, made second run. I can't remember exactly where we ended up, but about 4 cents off second run.
Yeah, which isn't huge,
No,
but it feels like a lot.
Yeah, we were pretty far off the mark from what we can do and what we expected of ourselves, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're always going to be slightly biased, but I mean, an outside pair of eyes, what would you say, TJ?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, what you guys have shown over the entire summer, and then again, specifically leading up into the race in Levy, so training in Levy and both and again in Cab Dallas, the performances that you were seeing there versus the race performances didn't necessarily match up. But there is then obviously a huge difference between racing and training. That's where, as a coach or a member of staff or not being the athlete, it's a bit easier to take a step back and see the big picture.
Yeah.
Whereas in that, obviously we felt emotions. From my point of view, I felt I wasn't disappointed. That's the wrong word to use. It was more. I actually don't know how to explain how I felt. I felt more frustrated for you guys because I see how hard you work, and like you say, we all know what you can put out from a performance point of view. So it was more, just feeling that for you guys that you couldn't show that on the day for whatever reason, which we can get into, I guess, in a bit. But
yeah, and like you say, at the end of the day, like any sport, it's not what you're doing in training, it's what you do on race day. That's what counts.
Yeah.
Exactly. You come out there and you have one opportunity. It was something I was thinking about after, because I was asking myself, how have I managed to do this when every day in training I've really brought my best? But then it's your one run.
Yeah.
You look back at the training, there were first runs that I didn't do my best. I made mistakes, and you just race day, it's savage. You have that one shot, you make a mistake or something goes wrong, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think the immediate response, like you say, you come through the finish. So I came down into 24th, starting 30th, and I didn't even need to look at the time. I knew just from how I felt going down, it wasn't going to be good. Probably wasn't going to be in the second run. And like you say, it's a slap, and it's a wave of emotion that obviously that's not what we wanted on the first race.
we said maybe we weren't going in with expectation, but you do have expectation because you come in and you're like,
and it's funny, like obviously there's a balance of watching people go down before your run or you start, seeing how they look, any tricky parts, and we were seeing some guys really struggle for grip. Some guys had too much grip, and that was kind of one of the things leading into the race, that, it was mixed temperatures, some cold, some warm, a bit of rain. And I think the surface we had was quite unique. I would describe it as like a wet ice.
Yeah. It was a warm, wet ice.
When you look at it, you've got a nice shine and a polish. But then when you're going over it, especially in inspection slowly, you could feel the edges catching.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really a texture to the surface
no,
either.
It was smooth.
It was, quite polished.
Yeah. And that's the thing, in inspection, it felt very grabby, but like say polished. So it looked icy.
Yeah.
And we said to each other during or after inspection, feels like this now, but once you're skiing it, I'm sure it'll feel good and you want enough edge.
Yeah, exactly. I went past some of the gates at a bit more speed and sort of skidded through, and I could feel that surface layer come off, and it felt better than when I was going past slowly. So I thought, okay, that's going to get down to something better.
Yeah, so that feeling from inspection to then when you're skiing it racing feels very different, and it did.
Yeah, it completely straight sort of in the first turns, really, you feel when you maybe have a little too much, and it just becomes a bit more difficult to do your thing.
Yeah, so the initial feeling, first few gates, for me felt like I had too much grip. And so, we train a lot in different conditions. We try to be prepared for different conditions, and so that you can adapt when it does happen. And, on the flat, I think could feel that it was too sharp, but you fight a bit,
Yeah.
I was getting pushed back a bit, but you're able to kind of, get back on front and keep it going. Whereas as soon as I got into the steep, it was just a fight the whole way down, and really difficult for me.
Yes, it's a tough one. I kind of had a similar feeling on the flat. It was a bit of a fight, just took up a bit more energy, but not so bad in the end.
Yeah, because to the top of the steep, what were we, 18th and 20th?
Yeah, something
to
like
the
that.
split.
It was
So we were
in touch, and
potentially- we were in
both of
touch.
us in the second intermediate had very good times.
Yeah, for sure.
Within the top, I don't know.
Yeah. So
But yeah, it was coming onto that pitch, I sort of made a mistake coming over, and that's where like something happens and you realise you've lost time. I thought, right, I have to throw this down here.
yeah, and you feel like you have to do more than you need to.
Yeah, and I kind of was throwing it down, maybe a bit straight, got caught on my inside, made another mistake, and then
Just not comfortable.
yeah, it was a difficult surface to feel comfortable letting the ski down the hill.
And that's the thing, at this level, you try to feel as comfortable as possible so that you can be on the front foot, be attacking,
Yeah.
because everyone else is. And if you don't feel comfortable, it's really tricky to go for it.
As soon as
For
you
sure.
you get in that defensive mode, it's hard to you can't bring top level. You're in defense.
Yeah. So from my perspective, or from I guess from a service guy's perspective, it's we had 3 race skis prepped for that day.
Mhm.
We had 2 different models of skis, and then we were fortunate enough as servicemen that we can get on the hill the night before, so you have a bit of a hill inspection, and then also Jai was setting the first run, so I was on the hill helping with Jai as well. So I had one of your skis on, tuned to your normal tuning to try and get a feel for it, and then you look at the forecast and you make your best educated decision making on how to tune the ski. And it's crazy, you're never going to tune outside of what you've skied on and what you've trained on and what and you can make small changes to it, but you then run the risk, especially when you're not quite sure what will happen, how the surface will develop with the race. You don't want to take anything away from the ski edge, because then it's almost worse having nothing.
Especially when you
So-
see guys go down,
Yeah.
struggling with grip.
So
when you've got a polished surface,
So the worst thing that you can do is sort of panic and make a rash decision there and then, because it could have been worse, and you never know.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We can talk about all this with hindsight.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about it.
Mm.
Maybe we would have done something differently, but we didn't. And that's
But that's how we get better.
Exactly, and that's
Yeah.
us learning from
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And so, the initial reaction, emotions, disappointment, frustration, and then as time passes, as that for me, I was really flat that whole day, and then we had to travel, and you have a lot of time to think about it, and it's tough. Feeling quite flat, quite low, and then as that starts to pass, you start to think a bit more logically. You're able to, I'd say separate things a little bit more. Like we just said, we're
Yeah.
actually top flat. We were okay. We're in touch. We're where we wanted to be in second run. Steep, not good. And you kind of reflect on it, break it down, and things seem a little better.
it's like that emotional cloud lifts,
Yeah.
because you're seeing it with like red tinted glasses at first, and it's like it's like the end of the world, and you're a crap skier all at the same time. When you go back, but what, it only takes one run to feel like that.
Yeah.
But then
It
And-
takes
and
one
that's-
run to feel like a
Exactly.
hero again.
you're
Well-
only one good turn away from a good feeling. That's what I always think.
Yeah, well, I always find that interesting because, like we said, we've done a really good summer prep going into the first race, feeling really good, confident, and how quickly that
Yeah.
can go.
Yeah.
One run, one
Yeah.
race, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, it just
and-
goes like that.
And that's again, I don't think it doesn't matter how many times you push out start gate, have these results. I think you'll always have that feeling. It's how you then learn to deal with it.
Yeah,
Mm.
and
I
bounce
think
back.
yeah, exactly. I think it's completely normal to have that period after the race where you're annoyed, you're angry, you want to go into the forest and scream. That's what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, I didn't. I think I would have felt better if I did. But then
Wrote some
it's-
stuff down.
yeah, wrote some stuff down on a notepad that made me feel a lot better. But yeah, it's completely normal to have that. But it is then moving on from that and reflecting, like you said, and making an action forward. And that's how you improve, because then you can return to training with new vigor, fuel to the fire, and go again, and not have this panic, because you could carry that through and have a panic into the next block and the next race. But you got to look at the evidence of all summer and all the prep period and take that.
Yeah. And I think I still think it's quite important to listen to those feelings and emotions, like not try and block it out, be like, oh, as soon as it's done, right, let's move on. For me, it's quite important to let it happen, feel down if I want to feel down, whatever I'm feeling is okay. And then I think naturally it you come out of it. I don't think it's great just to block it out. And
No,
I think we
shouldn't suppress.
and talking about it, amongst each other, talking, say, to my dad or, whoever it is, just, different perspective can help.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's normal if you came down and you didn't, whatever the situation was that caused you to have those feelings within the sport. If you didn't have them, you'd be worried that it didn't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
It's the key thing is how you process them, and I think you're right. I think you have to acknowledge just those emotions for sure, because they can be really motivating also. If it's a bad feeling, you don't want to experience it again necessarily. So you that helps you push hard to be the best version of you.
And I guess that's how you respond to that. That's probably what makes people who will go on to get better and potentially do better and win in the next race or so on, or let it get to them and ultimately bring them down.
How you respond to that failure, because within your career, how much failure have you had? I know I've had a decent chunk.
Always said I've failed so many times that I don't want to I don't want another failure, but if it happens again, it happens. And
it's not really adding it's not adding much percentage to my failures by adding one more.
Ski racing is quite an interesting sport, because I always used to, when people used to ask me and say, how you live an amazing life, blah, 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 which we do, don't get me wrong. But when you're doing, for me, I would do somewhere between 40 races a year, because I was still split on the Europa Cup Tour. You only need 2 out of those 40 results to be good results, and you can maintain or improve your world ranking, and then it's enough for you to carry on another season. So there's 38 races potentially of disappointment. And that, you have to be very mentally resilient to pick yourself up, evaluate, and go again.
Yeah.
So yeah, the key thing is how you manage those, and how you listen to them, you learn, and you move forward.
Yeah.
Talk a little about how we're maybe feeling since then. And
yeah, exactly. So after the race, we travelled back down to Central Europe, had basically 2/3 travel days with a rest day, and we're now here in Gurgle getting ready for this Sunday, the next race.
I found that a really good thing, having the race the next weekend, because when, obviously being frustrated with Levy, it kind of, there's one right on the horizon. I'm like, right, you can set your aim for and be like, I'm coming in with some revenge here.
Yeah, you want another opportunity.
Yeah,
fairly quick out the block.
It's annoying when when you have to wait for that one weeks later.
Yeah,
You're like, right, we can right, we travel down, a couple days training, and we go. And then you just keep up that tempo. And that's why I like it in the season when we're in the thick of things in January, where we have the majority of our races, and it's week in, week out, and you get into that tempo, and you're only a week away from the next shot to smash it.
Okay, so we're Thursday now.
It is
and
Billy Major's birthday. If you're watching this,
28, feeling old.
yeah,
Oof. coming into your prime.
Yeah,
yeah,
here we
we're
go.
coming right into
28
the
prime in
early
ski racing.
years. The early years of prime. The
For
prime
sure.
years last a long time.
Do you know what the statistic is on?
I think as a
average age?
slalom male skier, this was a few years ago, so I don't know if it's changed since. Probably has, but 28.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Similar in speed. Yeah.
But I remember it might have been when I was at the Olympics in Pyeongchang, they were saying like the last, I don't know how many guys who won the Olympic slalom were 34 years old.
Yeah. And you do see a few young guys come through, which also skew that data as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you factor in Christopherson, Hirscher, Bratton, Atterley, there's quite a few
Yeah.
young guys that then
Yeah.
bring that age down. And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
think you got, Dave, how old was he when he won?
36, 35, 36.
35, something like that, yeah.
Everyone's got their own journey, their
Yeah.
own career, and some people also peaked really early and they're nowhere to be seen anymore.
It's very true.
The wonder kids that
Yeah.
come through and burn out.
Yeah.
We're on a slow burn, coming in for a real big reach on this season.
So Gurgle, so quite different, I would say, from Levy. Where Levy was, I think, 200-300 meters.
Yeah.
Gurgle is anywhere between 2,200 to, is it 2.6, 2.7?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So
very,
around there, yeah.
around
very high up. High altitude.
I already feel it walking up the stairs to our room.
It's cold.
Yeah, really cold.
Today in training we had minus 15.
Yeah, around there, yeah.
Yeah. It's a different environment.
Yeah, very different.
Which I think we touched on environment and trying to recreate that environment in training, same as it will be on race day. You try your best, and that's what we're doing right now. That's why we decided to come down this week to get to the resort. We had really great training on the training slope, which is 200 meters from the race slope.
Yeah.
It's on a different slope.
Yeah. You're looking at a place that's going to have the same humidity, the same temperatures, where they're
Same
making
snow.
the snow. They're watering the piste in a similar way. You're giving yourself the best chance to get the right prep.
Yeah.
And the good thing is we know who's setting the course, one of the French coaches, and we mirrored their course today, which is another sort of level to try and give yourself a leg up.
Yeah.
And feel comfortable in your environment and tempos.
Yeah, and I mean we did that going into Levy, but on the day we weren't comfortable.
No.
But we hadn't skied any of the snow conditions before we trained in. Were nothing like the race day in
Yeah.
Levy. So I think today on the training hill, like Laurie was saying, with similar conditions, similar watering, it's going to be very similar to what the race is going to be like. So it goes back to what you were saying about feeling comfortable, so you're in a position where you can push, to the limit. So for me, I thought it was a really good day for that. It was quite tough. It was cold. It was quite flat light.
Yeah, very flat light and a bit windy.
Bit windy.
So you couldn't see much.
But the surface from what you get back from the
Feedback,
skis,
yeah.
I would say would be quite similar. It helps from my perspective. It helps from the tuning side of things as well, because it gives us an opportunity to say it's a bit too much, not enough, etc. So
And then you can reference that for when you get on the race piste, assuming they let you guys on the Saturday
exactly.
after the girls. Be a good reference point to how to
Yeah.
bring things on the Gurgle on the race day.
And that's definitely something. Conditions can vary, like from one day to the next. Overnight, it can turn, it can change quite quickly. So that's where, it might feel like this today, but come Sunday, it could be different again.
Yeah, I would say it's going to buff up on that warm-up piste.
Yeah.
And the temperatures are set to stay pretty cold, although we're getting a lot of snow. But then what's the temperature going to be on Sunday, TJ?
I think 2 degrees, 4 degrees, something like that.
So we got a
Yeah.
decent switch
We're
up
having
there.
about a 20-degree swing
Yeah, something
from
like that.
tomorrow's minus 25 to
But-
2
Yeah.
degrees.
But again, the training hill that we trained on today will be the warm-up hill.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had, been exposed to
Similar.
very similar preparation and conditions and weather. So actually,
Yeah,
you
we'll,
know,
we'll get an idea
it's
in the
again
morning
more
at least as
information
well.
And because we've skied on the hill, and those of the guys that skied on the training hill today as well will have a almost a bit of a leg up, just a bit more information in the bank to base off.
So in Levy, I think we can say we got something wrong. It didn't work out for us. Does that mean we need to change things from what we'd been doing leading up to that?
I'd say no. I'd say we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
We know what we were doing before was working with the prep, but we can take those key points away from Levy, like the snow conditions, how the skis were prepped, what we thought we could change a little. I know Alan changed a little something for mine today to see how that went, and it felt good, and that's potentially something we'll try. But I think for me, I was happy with my mindset going into Levy, and I can see from watching my video, my body language coming out of the gate, because that's a big one for me.
Yeah, you can see straight away, just pushing out
When-
the start, the first few gates, how you set the tone.
Exactly. For me, when I watch that and I come out with intent and I'm going at those first
Mhm.
gates, and for me, that's a big sign that my mindset was in a good place. I
Yeah.
was feeling good. I was confident. So I don't think I need to change anything in that sense going into this race. What about you?
Yeah, I'd say the exact same, really. Now I kind of laugh about it, I can remember very clearly feeling very confident start gate, having, just going off everything we had done leading into that, seeing other people. And then, so like you said, setting the tone from the first few gates, I tried to go to it. You can see I was a little stuck on my ski, but yeah, tried to give it my best. And you kind of have to just learn, brush it off, reset, and go again. And I think we're pretty good at that,
Especially obviously in this race we were in the same boat, but I think going through these ups and downs together, we definitely get a good feeling for each other's moods. And I know we laugh at it in the end. We
Yeah.
have this sort of we're frustrated after, but we're still making jokes, and we see the humor in it, which does help you
Yeah.
get over it.
Well, and when I said this to you the other day, it helps having someone else, to talk to and to relate to,
Yeah.
because I mean, if you're out there by yourself, I'm sure it can be pretty tough.
You can end
trapped
up in a
your
pretty
own
big
thoughts.
hole.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, we joke about it, we were like, oh, are we deluded?
Yeah.
You go from doing that in training to that result in race. And yeah, I think it's I don't know if it's a healthy way, but I think it's quite a good way of getting over it and seeing a bright side to things. And at the time, it all seems like a very big deal. And obviously, like you said, we work so hard, we commit our whole lives to this. So when it doesn't go how you want, it seems like a big deal. But in the grand scheme of things, I guess it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and
there are more opportunities.
Exactly. And for us, traveling back down, we spent one night at my place, Switzerland. We had some time to chill, just
Think of other things.
Watch some Christmas films, watch a scary film.
Yeah, we love Christmas.
We're
gonna get
TJ. Yeah, go on.
Here we go.
We've been listening to Christmas songs. We watched Love Actually.
Billy and I like to break the seal very early with the Christmas songs and music, Christmas music and films.
Yeah.
And Love Actually's out. We've broken that seal.
It is a Christmas classic,
It is.
but it's not December.
That doesn't matter.
We're just around the corner because the time goes so quickly.
You'll see.
If you wait until December, you're gonna run out of time to watch all these films.
We're gonna be chatting after Out of Padilla, which is 23rd December. You'll be like, oh my god, it's Christmas.
It's
It
gonna-
goes quickly,
It's gonna hit you like a freight train.
and you haven't watched Love Actually.
It'll be on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. The Snowman is the film that gets me in the Christmas spirit.
Oh yeah,
Snowman.
Yeah, Snowman, yeah.
What's that?
yeah. No, it's a classic. It's
Ah,
cartoon,
Steve.
animated.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I forget his name. Allard Jones. Allard Jones, I think it's Allard Jones.
He's I know
he's
the
Welsh.
one you mean.
He was a Welsh boy, and it's like an animated film. It's fantastic,
Okay, we'll
Hopefully
watch
Welsh
that.
lad.
nostalgic.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to watch that.
So if you played that to me, I might get in the spirit.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood. Copy.
Mm.
Copy that.
Yeah, so in that disappointment, maybe sometimes you just need to think of other things, freshen up. We like to watch Christmas movies, but yeah, it's just doing something different.
Yeah, for me that helps a lot, because then you do realize there's other things in life. It's because we've, our whole world has revolved around this sport for,
Our
I
whole
don't know,
lives.
yeah, since you can remember. This is what we've been striving for and doing every little thing for, every percent for, and you get to this point, it can feel like that is everything.
Yeah, and that's something I was listening to a rugby podcast. A player I really like. He was talking about he's basically just been reselected for the England rugby team, and it was really emotional for him because his athletic performance really governs the rest of his life. And that's something that's really tough. Whatever happens in your skiing world, and that is for us our world. To an extent, it's really tough to separate that from the other things that you have in your life.
It is difficult. I know sometimes when I've been through a streak of bad performances, there's other good things in your life, but I almost feel like I don't deserve that.
Yeah.
And which is
Yeah, we were talking about that after the race. Like
Yeah.
you feel like you don't deserve to sleep in a nice bed or have
Yeah.
some nice food.
yeah, like I'd literally, maybe I should just sleep on a bench in the airport.
You laugh about this. I skied with a Slovenian skier in Lake Louise, and he was so disappointed with his performance. He refused himself to sleep. He wouldn't go to bed. It's such a ski racing or professional sport in general is it's an all-encompassing thing. It's your life. So it becomes your identity.
Well, that's what it takes.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
that's exactly it. It takes all commitment, your whole life
Yeah.
towards that.
Yeah, especially if you want to be the best, for sure it really does. But it's that identity. So if your performance and you haven't performed how you feel you should, that's
Suddenly your self-worth
exactly
is lower.
How are you perceiving yourself?
Mhm.
And that's difficult, and that's where it is really healthy to take a step away for a day or two, do something else, take your mind off it, so you're not ruminating. And
you realise you're not a crap person just because you had a bad race.
You're not a douche.
You're not a
Wow.
doucher.
You can say that, can't you?
Yeah, you can say
Yeah.
that.
No, I'm saying that
It's
I'm
just,
a
it's,
douche.
it's, I mean, it's just a medical device. Yeah, no, let's not get. We don't need to get.
I
into
learned about it in
conversation.
Sex Education. You know the show,
Ah.
Oh,
Netflix.
yeah, me too.
So we've talked about Levy. We've talked about sort of how we've moved through that and the emotions we've gone through, and obviously we've talked about our prep into Gurgle. We're not changing anything. Are you feeling as confident going into this one as you were Levy?
Like we said, we had training today,
Yeah.
and things were a little different, but you can't forget all the work that we've done over the summer. If this sport was data driven, there'd be a lot of data to show that we've been skiing really well, skiing really fast, and it's quite hard to think like that. Sometimes when it doesn't go well, but if you were to look at it as data, there's clear evidence to show you that we've been doing really well. So you don't need to, after one bad result, feel like it's going to go really badly and you need to approach things any differently. I think, like we touched on, just use it as fuel to the fire.
Yeah. I definitely feel like I really stoked up that fire. I'm hungry, but also just when we arrived here, we got a bit of free skiing. It was nice to just ski, feel the movements in the body. Training today, you sort of feel through the motions, and you get back into your zone. And I think now we've got one day off to freshen up, one day of training where we do some light training leading into the race. I think we're not doing too much. We're putting ourselves where we're getting some good prep in here, and we're going to be able to feel like ready in our bodies in terms of comfortable in the environment, like we spoke about.
Yeah, I definitely still feel not that I feel the negative emotions, but there's always those bits where sometimes if you do well, if you do badly, you know, what do you cling on to a bit more? And, you know, the like we talked about in the first episode, frustration, you know, sometimes it can be used as a tool. And the let's say the bad performance at the weekend and Levy for me, I still, like today, it jumps back into your head sometimes, you know, the bit where it went wrong, or the feeling I had skiing down the pitch, you know, sometimes it wants to override things a little bit. But yeah, you just learn to, again, I don't block that out. I'm like, okay, that happened, but you know how to do it properly. I didn't do that on Sunday, but I know how to. And so you can, go and do it this Sunday.
Yeah, I completely
But
agree.
do you find sometimes it lingers and it wants to jump in every now and again?
Yeah, you get those question marks thrown out when it's like, oh, well, because like, we're looking at the pitch today as we came up the gondola to the training piece, you could see the pitch, and it's like, what if that's the same as Levy?
Yeah.
What if it's the same?
Well, and that's the thing. You have those thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I mean. And
as you climb the ladder, that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
They're still there.
And you have those thoughts, and you know, maybe it almost like it brings back that little sense of, I don't know, whatever you felt in that race, the way you're like, ooh, is it going to be the same? Am I going to make that same mistake? But it's how you go from there.
Yeah. And for me, I then try and throw myself into like the courses in training today and try feel loose and natural in my body. And that's when I know I'm going to do my best skiing. So I try and just hone in on that.
Yeah, you go back to your, whether it's like cues or what you know to target to get a good response and to feel good again.
Yeah, exactly. I have my key points that I focus on. So I have my drills that I do in warm up, which make me feel like I'm hitting the points that I want to do in the skiing, and it's sort of going back to those, the routes,
going
like
back to the basics,
dialing into your own routine, and that also brings a level of comfort by having that routine.
Yeah, and that's the consistency where if you do that in training every day, which we do, you know, you can then tap back into that when things haven't gone so well, and it comes back a bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll backtrack here and throw it back to last year when we were in America. In Palisades, it didn't go well for me. I didn't have a great first run, bit of mistakes, and then handbrake on, and it just wasn't a good feeling. And I just got to the bottom of that, and I was like, I'm not doing that again. It was that's kind of how I went from it. And that obviously it was I had the same thing. The cloud of emotion came in. I went and rented a pair of powder skis and went free skiing off piste. And then I came out like, you know what? I think, who was it? I can't remember who it was I spoke to that kind of was like, you can't put the handbrake on. You got to go for it. Like what do you have to lose? But I just was coming into the next race the weekend after, and it was just, I'm not doing that again. And so those thoughts of like the negativity or the question marks that come up, that like annoyance that like stayed on actually fueled me into that next race, because it's like, I'm not doing that again. Yeah. It was just that's kind of the fuel to take forward that is negative. In a sense, it comes from a negative place, but it is, you used it and you channel it. Yeah. So it's like those feelings don't go away. You don't just forget about that race, but it just comes out as grit. I'm not doing that again.
Positive learning experience.
Yeah. It's like I'm giving it everything. Make a mistake, I don't care. I'm fighting through it.
Yeah. Well, I find really funny, like when emotions settle down, you know, like I think mums are like this in general. And my mum, no matter how I do, she'll always be super positive and like, oh, you looked great, you know. And, you know, at the time it's always like, oh, no, I wasn't good. It was crap.
Yeah.
All those things. But, you know, a bit of positivity does help.
Yeah. And that's where it's nice to have your loved ones, your nearest and dearest, that you can talk to, because they add that different perspective, like you already touched on. You know, I reflected with my better half, Georgia. She was very positive. You know, she, you know, saw the positive side to it. She had, you know, I was not stressing and frustrated about the tune and the feeling that you had from the ski, and I've done something differently, etc. And because she's not in the moment and doesn't have the raw emotions that we all experience with it, she was able to be a bit more objective about it and say, well, you know, it's not, you didn't do anything wrong. You did what you've been doing and skiing with and training on.
And that's been working well.
Which has been working well. And she, you know, she said, why would you have done anything differently? It would have been crazy to have tried something different. Yeah, it's just nice to debrief with someone who's a bit more detached from it.
Yeah, it's that different perspective, that fresh set of eyes that comes in and tells you you're not crazy.
Did you feel, like we said, you it's been 10 years since you last raced a World Cup. Now you're back on the World Cup tour. Going into it, did you feel like really different? Did you approach it any differently?
That's a good question, actually. Interesting. You take the same principles across. I mean, I took the same principles that I learned from ski racing across into education and physio, and then I'll apply them here as well. And it's, for me, preparation is super important. Being organised, reducing and minimising, you know, controlling all your controllables, so you reduce any unnecessary and stress. No one wants stress. Trying to replicate what we know, so those training feelings, experiences. So from my point of view, trying to portray, you know, I was nervous, trying to be my normal self for you. So
don't worry, I felt it. But that, yeah, it was funny because I was also, you know, I've had other people, you know, servicemen, and so it's an interesting relationship, because you form, like all of us on the team, you know, you form this bond, this relationship, and so at the end of the day, we're on this journey together now.
Yeah,
and so
massively.
I would say, without being too cheesy, it's quite nice, because, like, you know, you see they're feeling it as well, and you know you're in it.
And that's the nice thing about the team. And I think other big teams see that and have commented that we are like a family. Like, you know, me, Jai, Alan, we take on different roles, multi-roles within the team.
They have 10 hands.
Yeah, 10 hands. I do come from Norfolk, so I've also got 11 fingers. But it's this family dynamic. You know, everyone cares about each other. You know, we look out for each other, and we all want the best for each other. So we always will do what it takes to give you guys the best opportunity.
Yeah.
Because we see how hard you work as well, which motivates us massively. So yeah, it was an interesting experience for me to be first World Cup shoe on the other foot. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, same principles, just organisation. I tried as best I could to keep my emotions under check and be that supportive role for you.
Yeah, I could feel like you didn't, it wasn't sort of, you just had this like elevated energy on the day, but you were still,
it was
excitement, exactly.
It was more like, adrenaline and anxiety. Maybe nerves is the wrong word to use to describe it.
But that also, you know, that pumped me up. That kind of elevated me. I'm like, right, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I felt really amped.
Yeah, and everyone was feeling great.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
and that's where, after the disappointing weekend that we had, I mean, we haven't talked about Dave. You know, Dave's also on the team, obviously. Dave had a really great first run. You know, 5th fastest on the first run. Was he about
0.44?
Yeah,
I think
4/10.
4 something.
So he had a really great first run. Felt really good, and then didn't quite get that same feeling in the second run. But you know, I think he was pretty happy as a whole. You know, with how he'd been feeling in training to put some good skiing down.
Yeah, and he's staying in the top 7 for the next race, which is also another really important thing, and that helps. And you know, these things, it's a season-long thing. We were counting out the amount of races we have, so if you include world champs and finals, I think we said it was 14 races. So this is a season-long thing, so you're working on averages and accumulation of points here. So
Yeah, and that's where I like to think of it as an emotional roller coaster. It's like the emotional roller coaster. It's really tough in skiing and in life if you have huge highs and huge lows. To over a season long, it's really taxing. It's really draining.
Exhausting.
So that's where you have the emotions you feel, whatever they might be, good or bad, but you never try to go too far one way. Even when it goes well for me, I try not to get too, over the moon or ecstatic, because it can come down the other way really quickly. So try and keeping emotions and everything just more leveled, I think, over a longer period of time is a bit more sustainable.
for sure. And I think being like within the team, I think it dampens things out a little bit, because if one person's doing really well and if they're going up there, we might, have a bit of banter between us if someone's getting too big for their boots, or just making jokes about
Yeah.
it. And then when one person's maybe had a bad race, they're down, we also help bring each other up. So obviously you're not clinging onto the ankles of the person at the top, like pulling them down, but you even things out, and you kind of in the end balance. I think it helps balance things through.
Yeah, Keely Hodgkinson was
Mm.
it was the world champ silver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, world champ silver medal. Obviously an incredible high that she talked about, and all of everything that came with it afterwards, the media, the friendships, the endorsements, etc. afterwards. But once that settled down, she said that she found it really hard to find pleasure and enjoyment and sort of satisfaction in sort of her day-to-day life afterwards, because it was, you go from that big high to then it's quite hard to then bring yourself back up into that sort of middle ground again.
Yeah,
It's really interesting.
Yeah, and there's always quite a lot of chat on post Olympics.
Post-Olympic blues.
Yeah.
and it's really interesting because I really felt that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and now with hindsight, I can really say, wow, that hit me really hard, And it's the same, like we were saying, off the back of a good race or a bad race, there's always some kind of race blues, let's call it. But I guess you learn to deal with it, and I don't think maybe, but I don't think anyone can just block it out and say they've never had that. I think you just get better at dealing with things.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, it's that process, and the more you experience it, the more you have those routines of how you process it.
Yeah, and that definitely translates into other parts of life for me, for sure, and different areas. I know I'm sure a huge, well, let's talk about the NHS. Say doctors under high stress that have to make something happen and it doesn't go well. How do they deal with that? And we're talking about ski racing and not having a good result.
Yeah, in that sense, it seems a bit more trivial.
But it's still, it's performance, isn't it? It's high performance. These doctors, surgeons, they're at the top of their game, so they have to turn up the next day.
Exactly.
So it's how do you deal with it? And I've seen junior doctors have to certify deaths before the first deaths that they've certified, and it hits them really hard, as it would. It'd be not very humanistic if it didn't. But over time, it's not that you become desensitized or it becomes normalized. You just have better coping strategies and mechanisms, and it's understanding how to manage those emotions. And it's exactly the same in sport.
Yeah,
for sure. It's just the peak of performance.
Yeah, and I think we've had enough experiences, like we touched on. How many times have we failed? We've had quite a lot of experience now on how to deal with these things, but anyone who's maybe starting their career in ski racing or
Any sport
or any circle of life, you're going to have these disappointing moments and they're going to be there, but it sucks at the time. It really sucks.
Embrace it, Billy. Embrace the suck.
Yeah, well said by a US coach.
In Pier.
Embrace the suck, guys.
Sucky.
Someone had to go there, didn't they?
Yeah, but you are right as well. It carries over into your day-to-day life generally as well. So I would say when I was a junior ski racer, I was very emotional, very up and down, quite hot-headed, and I would let it get the better of me. And I certainly lost productivity in training days as a result of it on occasion. But now, interestingly, Georgia would say that I'm very level-headed and I'm very always middle ground.
I would agree with that. You're very across the board, seem quite logical in your approach to things.
Unless when he gets angry.
Angry, I
That's
can get
true.
angry. But
Who doesn't?
Yeah, but what's in, I still feel the same emotions. And it's just that you have a different process. It's just you just learn a skill, and it is a skill.
Yeah, I think what is quite tricky being in a team environment, a close team environment, like I said, living together, is kind of reading on other people's emotions. I can seem quite negative after a bad result, but so like a coach will see me then, but then they don't see me the rest of the day, for example. And when I'm just with Laurie, and then
You're cracking jokes.
you're chatting breeze,
Yeah.
and
Watching Love Actually.
yeah, and so it's how do you read other people's emotions
For sure.
in the team, and it can have a bit of an influence on your emotions as well. So it's being self-aware a little bit on what you're giving off to the rest of the guys.
Got to check yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was one of the, when I first joined you guys, one of the first learning curves I had was trying to read you and understand you, because as a member of staff, you need to, again, whether you're in the private sector and you're a manager, or whether you're a coach, technician, whatever it is, the guys that you're working with, you need to be able to read them to bring the best out of them, to support them in being their best self. And you have to be able to know when to, like you guys are really good at with each other, when you need to lift each other up, when you need to, check someone and say, knock it down a peg or two.
Check yourself.
Or just give space.
Exactly, or just give space. I don't know, my coping mechanism when I need, when I probably angry or frustrated, I tend to just withdraw, because I'm just not nice to be around, to be honest. I don't know why would anyone enjoy my company. So that's my self-awareness. And everyone has different levels of self-awareness. So you guys share room. So
Yeah, they again tried to get us to share a nice, comfortable double bed, but
As much as we love each other, sharing a bed, it can disturb our sleep.
not for any funny reasons. Just
sounds like that's what we're up to next door.
It
the
does.
Austrians.
Bloody
does it?
fella, Stroltz, pack it in.
Okay, so we've done some really good prep now. Good training day. 1 day off, and then we go into our last little touch up on the day before the race. A few feeler runs. Just you want to get the body moving well, but not bring in too much fatigue.
Mentally as well. That mental preparation.
But so the mental preparation. So the day before the race, last training session, you have a really good day. You're fastest, destroying people. Or you're on the other side, really slow for some reason, just not feeling yourself. Does that change how you go into the race the next day?
I think from a mental preparation side of things, it's not necessarily correlating that directly to your performance in the training, or your timed performance in the training. It's your routine, how you approach the session.
So it's not so much the outcome of the session.
Not necessarily, no. I think if your preparation mentally and physically is right, generally the outcome is good.
But if it's not,
if it potentially it's the day before, so maybe you think you're mentally you feel that you're there, you're at the level, you're sharp, but your times aren't quite where you thought they should be. But reflecting back on your preparation, did you feel a bit of anxiety coming into that day? Sleep? Did you give yourself enough time to warm up physically in the morning as well? Those sorts of things. Did you go through that set routine? And also, it's not just the mental side of things about the speed. It's not just about the time. It's about the gates coming at you. You've got however many things happening at one point in time.
Yeah.
And it's that sharpness of cognitive function, so to speak.
Yeah. And
is really important.
And you said earlier, Laurie, about it's not because you have one bad run, one bad race, you know,
Mhm.
that you're there for everything you've done leading up to that. You know, you haven't just overnight become a crap skier. And it's the same in training. If, you know, maybe you're slowest on all 5 out of 5 runs, but if you actually break it down, sometimes it's only because of, say, one gate.
Exactly.
you're
You can lose a lot of time on one gate, and it could throw your perception of the whole training session. Whereas you clean up that one gate, suddenly you're in the mix again.
Exactly.
But like I've been in races where I've had good feelings in the warm up and sucked.
Yeah.
I've been in races where I've not really had a good feeling in the warm up, but then it gets to the race
Crushed it.
and I've crushed it. Yeah. So it's,
Was your preparation, your routine the same leading up to both those races?
I would say, yeah, I keep quite a similar routine, but sometimes, yeah, maybe like you said, maybe the nervous feeling in the training, maybe something, or maybe just something in that specific training course wasn't for me, or yeah, maybe my warm up was slightly different, but generally I go in with the same approach,
Yeah.
That's it.
and then you
The
make
outcome.
one little mistake in that warm up, and then you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
But then the race, you throw things round and
Yeah.
and it's different.
Yeah. And like you said, with your result in Palisades last year, not a great result, but then directly after you had your best result ever. It was the same for me last year, Kitzbühel. Going into it, I didn't have great feeling in training, you know, let's say the week going into it, but I got the best result of the season for me. On the other side, great training going into, say, Madonna, I come out. So it's not because you're feeling good or feeling bad. That's how the race is going to go. So I think that's quite important. And again, I really learned that last year. Sometimes it doesn't matter how you feel going into something. It's how you want to go to it and give it your best shot.
Exactly. It's going back to your routine and your key points that bring you to where you want to be. And like I said before, it only takes one turn to get that good feeling. Because I find if I come into the course and I get that feeling, like say I come into the course, I get second gate, I get that feeling, and then boom, you're confident. You straight away, I find my confidence is there, and then you can then let it go. So yeah, maybe didn't work out in the warm up, but then as soon as you know when you get that feeling, you can run with it.
Yeah. So all in all, slightly disappointing for ourselves weekend in Levy, and we're gonna bounce back from it. We've given ourselves really good prep. We're feeling good for the weekend. We've learned and we've moved on from Levy, and yeah, ready for Sunday.
Another huge reach in. Went for a big reach in Levy, but I think I've got an improvement on that one.
Yeah, I was slightly disappointed by my reach.
It's quite
Yours was maybe a bit lower. Mine just lacked a bit of vigor.
quite a good finish here for reaching, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of actually, you know, you run off the pitch and then you drop down a bit into the finish. That last roll,
We've trained that. Cab Dallas.
big reach.
Yeah. So we'll be giving our all. We'll be putting in a huge reach, and we'll see how it goes.
And we'll see you guys next week in another podcast, and maybe we'll be talking about another big disappointment, or we'll be having a huge party like it sounds like they're having next door at the Austrians' place.
Episode 2 after Levy, episode 3 next week, hopefully after a more positive weekend. Follow us across all socials. Hope you're somewhat enjoying the podcast.
Let us know what you're reaching for and what is your reach.